The used range is perhaps not as useful as it could be. Let's see how that works. I've got a range of values at the moment. If I put a button on the screen as we do, double click and go into the code, and then if we just try this simple bit of code and try it, it selects that region, and of course if you didn't have that number there, for example, it would select that. Now that can be a problem with used range, because rather than just deleting something, we really need to clear, because at the moment that's selecting that particular, even though we deleted. So what we could do is to go and clear it completely. And we need to clear the format, strangely enough, too. So but basically, therefore, it's unfortunately unreliable, a bit of a pity, because that could have been quite useful. We have in Excel, for example, commands such as these. If we do a down arrow, n down arrow, that will go to that particular cell. We can emulate that in Excel VBA using this Excel down. So if I click anywhere in the sheet, and then that will do exactly the same thing. There are a series of these: Excel down, Excel up, and so on. If we want to talk about offset, now the offset command, it's much the same as it is in Excel. If we have a range, which I'll just delete those and highlight a particular range I want to refer to, B2 to D4, and I'll just give that a border. If I try this bit of code to offset, what does that do? It's B2 to D4, offset 4-1. That means 4 rows in one column. Let's see what that means. 4 rows in one column mean 4 rows down and one column across. 1, 2, 3, 4, and one column across. So that's why it selects that particular range at the top left cell. If we were to, you could make it bigger, for example, sorry, that would offset by. If we want to offset by just one, let's see the effect of this, offset 1, it just takes it down one row. And if you want to go one column, you could put a comma in here, and that would offset one column. As an application of offset, let's consider this problem here. We've got some codes down here, and we want to find the code corresponding to DFG, which is in this case is the 34.43. This might remind you of something, VLOOKUP. Well, VLOOKUP, unfortunately, doesn't go from left to right. It won't go searching for something and then find the corresponding. It won't go searching for 34.43 and find the DFG. It will do that. It won't go backwards. It won't find the look for the DFG and then find that bit, the 34.43 to the left. It just doesn't work. And this is a good example of how VBA comes to the fore, where it actually modifies the behavior of Excel. Let's start off by going through this slowly. We'll just dim a range, and I'll set the range equal to that particular range. And you might even want to just make sure that's working. I'll just see if that selects the range. That's fine, so that's working. So that's just a good idea to test your code as you go. What I'm going to do then is to look for a particular value. So I'll set up that value, which is like this. That's the value that we're going to be looking for within that range. and I need therefore to dim that as well. And indeed I could just test that to make sure that's nothing is going wrong at the moment. So what well, if I even wanted to, I could put a breakpoint there and run it and then just check out it's empty at the moment. If I do an F8, then it tells me it in fact is DFG. So that's working fine. What I want to do is to make a loop here. So I'm going to loop around all the values, all the codes. So I'll just stop that from running, and then the next I, and obviously we need to dim I as well. So if we're going to be using it, I'll just stop that code, and yes, I know. So I'll do here dim I as integer, and okay, maybe we could even try and run that as well. Maybe I can message box the values out. The range cells full stop value to see if that works. Yes, that's doing fine. So it's going through them one at a time. But what I want to do is not message box them out. I want to message box out the one to the left if it's found to be the same. So I could use this. If that value is equal to our value that we're looking for, which is DFG, then message box the cells which is 1 to the left. Let's see if that, well, indeed that works fine. It picks out the 34.43. So you can see how it's working like VLOOKUP, but it actually goes backwards as well. Talking of VLOOKUP, we might like to make our own what we call user-defined function, which would sort of replace VLOOKUP. What I would like to do ultimately is have a user-defined function. That is to say, I want to type in here my user-defined function, be my VLOOKUP, and so on. And what that would do would be able to look through that stuff and then find the value to the left. So I'm going to make my own Excel function. So we're moving ahead a little bit, but this is actually in chapter 10, and so we may not understand a few of the things about functions, but let's just make a user-defined function, and you can fill in the gaps when you get to doing chapter 10. So let's try to make we'll use a blank sheet. And we'll put a number in here, and what we want to do is to make a user-defined function to multiply that by 1.5. Now what we need for a user-defined function is a module. So I've already got one here, but I usually would go through here, insert module. A user-defined function must be in a code module. Well, I'll make a brand new one. How's that? What we need to do now is to type our user-defined function like this. So it's function, and then the name of the user-defined function, the input. I'll explain that in a moment. And then this is the output, which is also a decimal number. Notice when I press the enter key, nothing happens. We have a $st as single. Is that in the, yes. Oh, just left out the as here. Okay, and that puts that end function in there for you. Now, what we need to do is to write this code. We're going to dim a variable, which is going to represent the conversion rate, and we'll call that, make it 1.5, and then at the end of any function, let alone a user-defined function, you must use the name of the function. Once again, that's a golden rule. That needs to be the same as that when you're using a function. And that's going to take the value, which is input, st, multiply that by 1.5, and then put the result in here. Well, let's see if it works. I'm a bit fussy, but I'm going to copy that here, and then in here, Excel, I'm going to press equals, paste it in. Well, it didn't even spell DOL. Oh, look at that, it's coming down. It should have had the... That's probably because I've already got one. Indeed, I've already done this before, unfortunately. And now, so that if that's working fine. So just to summarize, we've got a module, and we've put this code inside the module. Let's see what happens, what's going on here. I'll just delete the result here and try again. So remember, we just type in the name of the user-defined function, which is, and then click on and then close it off, and then click the tick, and that works. Let's try to I'll put a breakpoint in here to see how this is actually working. If you want to run it again, you can actually just type up here and press enter, and that will run it. Now notice that rate at the moment has got a value of 0, but then F8, and you'll see it's been given the value of 1.5, and then it will take, now this is the important bit here, the 2.5 is what is input from here. That 2.5 there is input into A2. So A2 directly corresponds to the VBA value of st. It's passed in directly into the function. And so that value, 2.5, is multiplied by 1.5 to give you the result of 3.75, which is placed in the cell. That's the concept of a user-defined function. So what you might like to do is to take the code that we previously had for VLOOKUP, and then use that code to of VLOOKUP to write your own VLOOKUP function to use to find the code value, and working from right to left. Intersect is a way of, if we have two regions here, two ranges, then we want to find the intersection, so where they meet basically. Then we use this command, the intersect, where we specify two ranges like this. So what I've done on the spreadsheet, I've made my two ranges, and then the two ranges, these are the correct ranges, and I want to find the intersection, which is this little section in here. So I'll go to the code and paste in the instruction to do that. Intersect. So you need to specify, it's a rather clumsy way actually of specifying. You've got the range, the two ranges here, corresponding to these two ranges here, and it says intersect, and you want to find where they meet. And what you're going to do then is to take the interior and make the color blue. Let's see if that works. That's fine. I'll just now take that formatting away. And try the union. Now the union will find where the total range, let's see, it finds all of it basically. It's not used all that much, I must say. The intersect can be actually quite useful, as we will see in a moment. We wish to use that intersect to try and find if a user clicks in a certain area or not. So what we want to do is to find that the user is only allowed to click in this area here, anywhere in there, but outside there it'll get a message saying that you ought to click in here. So we need to make this a worksheet function. Let's see, so we've got sheet 4 here. We'll make sure we go to the worksheet, and we're looking for, that's the one we want, the selection change. So what that means is, as you recall, if you change a selection from one place to another, this event will activate. We'll start off by defining our own little range variable, and we can set that range. We might actually even want to try it out and see if this works, if we can select the range. If that means if we change anywhere, any cell at all, it will select that range, which is what it's doing. So that's fine. What we want to do though is to check that the user has clicked within that particular range. So I'll get rid of that select. And use this code here. We've got an if statement here. Now, the way this works is, it says here, if intersect range target, and as I say, that's rather a clumsy way of doing it. And it's even clumsy when it says is nothing. So what does that mean? Range target. So range is let's see if that's working. Yes, that's working. Okay, that's the result we want. So the idea is if you click in here, it says okay. But if you click anywhere else out of there, it says please select the proper range, proper cell in that range. So let's see how that works. As I was saying, it's a clumsy way, but it says if intersect range. Now, range is the value that is the range that we specified. That's that range there. And the target is the range which is sort of input into this function, if you like. It's where you click is that range. So if the intersection of the target, which is where you click, with our range is something, in other words, it is nothing. Sorry, if it's not in that range, then so if I were to click here, then it says that. So if it's nothing, so if you're not clicking in the right range, it'll do that. So if intersect such is nothing. As I say, rather clumsy, but that's the way it is. Otherwise, if you do click within that range, it will give you okay.